All right, everybody, welcome back to the KSR YouTube channel. Thank you to all of you who have been watching the videos lately and subscribing, and also especially big thanks to you that have been to winwithksr.com and bought some of our shop merchandise. And we got hats, shirts, stickers, all that fun stuff. Haven't been pushing it a whole lot lately just because I don't want to be one of those channels that does that every single video, but we do appreciate those of you that do hop on and buy some of the merch because it really helps support the channel and some of the stuff we're doing, like with SoccerMom here. So another day on SoccerMom where we are getting close to needing to be ready for sick week. We might have a solution for the engine getting here. I'm not gonna mention the shipping company that's causing us problems, but it starts with an F and ends with an X. So maybe you can figure that out. So on today's video, we are going to be installing the drive shaft, working on the drive shaft loop, which means the drive shaft will actually be installed and removed several times. What else are we gonna do? Radiator, transmission cooler lines, and possibly radiator hoses. So yeah, let's get through the intro and get to it. All right, so first order of business, back to our radiator water pump fan module. I got the fittings welded on to the deal here, and those aren't very pretty. Not, I mean, it's kind of smooth, but this material is cast, the water pump housing itself, and sometimes cast does not weld very nice. So I chased a bunch of pinholes and kind of flowed it out over a big broad area to have it sealed up, hopefully. But we've got our two 12AN outlets on there now that will plumb up to the engine plates, which Will's about to get here. He's going to change those out for 12AN on the outlets there. But I almost made a mistake, and some of you kind of caught it in the video where I screwed the housing onto the radiator when it was dry. Well, it almost didn't come back off. In the video, when I started backing it off, it got snug, and I kind of panicked, and I stopped. But I was able to squirt some oil down through the inside since it had the back housing off, and worked it back and forth, and it came off. Thank goodness. I mean, the worst thing I would have had to have done would have been to cut this off and remake it, but that's not a big deal. So a couple of you also asked how it actually seals. There's an O-ring there that pilots on the inside of the deal there. And my mistake that I almost made, well, I did make it. I just had to modify a little bit more. It hit this bracket. So I had to shave about 1/8 of an inch off of that. And now she goes right on there. I mean, it misses by about that much. But all good to go there. Snugs up. Get her a little bonk onto there, and it's good. So one thing we've still got to do is I'm going to make a strap that attaches here, and then it's going to come down and catch this bolt right here. So we'll drill this bolt out to a number 8 size or a number 10 and just make a little flat strap that holds it. That holds the water pump tight, as well as gives it some support. You know, when you figure that thing's hanging off there and it could maybe bounce or something like that. But as long as this doesn't leak, we should not have to replace this, because the cartridge for the water pump itself obviously is removable. So we'll be able to just pop that out, and I think we'll even be able to do it without even taking the radiator out of the car. So if we fail a water pump on the drive, which we had one of these water pumps on SoccerMom for, let's see, 2016, 6 years. Yeah, and the only reason it failed, the motor still worked, but corrosion kind of got inside the water pump because this is raw aluminum, and we only ran straight water. So, you know, electrolysis and sciencey things made it corrode, and it kind of bound up the little fins on the water pump and locked the water pump up. Once we took it apart, everything was okay, but we were like, well, once we got it apart, we might as well replace the motor. That was right before Sick Week last year. So what we did is, this was the housing for that new water pump. We had this sitting on the shelf because the old setup was a little bit different. So we just grabbed the new housing to match back with the water pump cartridge itself that we installed in the car for Sick Week last year. So Will's about to be here. Like I said, I've got to run out and get my kids because it's early pickup day today from school. So yeah, we got a lot to do. So next clip will probably be a lot more stuff is done. We got some other stuff to talk about too that I took care of this morning, but we'll be back in just a minute. All right, well, the next part of the last minute Thrash saga continues. Our old mandrel drive, that this is where the alternator pulley goes on, as well as the fuel pump drive pulley. We've tailored them to different sizes because you can't get too many pulleys that bolt onto the front. You know, most serpentine balancers are big. So the problem that we fixed with the mandrel drive is we're able to get different size pulleys that slide onto this 1-inch mandrel. Everything's good. What happened with our old balancer, and this is something that we ran with that we maybe should have fixed, but we didn't, and we're fixing it now. We needed this spacer to bring the mandrel drive out farther. So this got machined to get the spacing just right for everything. But now, when we did that, this had a little bit of wobble. So what I did is I piled a bunch of weld on, made a few laps with the old HTP TIG welder, which if you guys need TIG welding supplies, usaweld.com, and use WinWithKSR hashtag and you get a discount. Just saying. We use our own discount, I'm not gonna lie. So it's good for all of us. So anyways, I machined that, or I welded that, and I'm about to machine it so that this fits in here like it's supposed to, instead of having, you know, the gap there. So let's get to it, make this thing work, and then we can mock this up so that we can route our radiator hoses around all of the things that are in the way. And we're going from 10 AN hoses to 12 AN hoses, and it's getting busy, but we're gonna make it work. We can certainly figure this out and make it work. Time lapse this, you guys can watch me machine this thing. I'm not really sure what I was thinking when I set up this time lapse, knowing that I just had to basically machine on 2 axes real quick. Anyways, skimmed it off flat, put a little register at the right dimension, and we're done. All right, well, that was a much shorter time lapse than I thought. And I maybe put the weld a little bit too much to the inside, but that's one way to get around machining off a register that you needed. And now, watch this. Oh, isn't that just so satisfying? It's got just a little tiny bit. I mean, like, I can just barely feel it move when I try to wiggle it there. So I think we are good to go. Let's go back over to the car and start putting the rest of this thing together. Alrighty, well you saw that I've gotten the expansion tank welded up. I've got one more tab to put on that once it is back in the car, because it's got one mounting flange that's hot. It's got one mounting flange that is going to bolt it to the bar that goes around the fuel cell. And then, so I'm gonna put a tab up here to catch a corner and triangulate it down also to the bar that runs around the fuel cell, just to triangulate it. Triangles are really strong. So, while I've been doing that, Will's been doing the radiator hoses, let's call them. Water pump hoses. We have 4 on this thing because there's 2 outlets and inlets and outlets on the deal there. Oh, look at that, look at that. It's busy up in here. You know, we got our fuel line coming out of the fuel pump, and then hoses upon hoses. And yeah, even with all my planning and mocking up to finish the water pump deal, you might can see that Sharpie mark there. I need to cut this bung off and change it to that angle. So I need to, instead of it sticking this way, I need it to stick more that way. Because I didn't remember that we had an alternator. And Will came in, and was one of the first things he mentioned, that the area that I had intended to run the hoses, he was like, hey, stupid, there's a radiator hose in the way.
I didn't say, hey, stupid.
Okay, maybe I said, hey, stupid. Anyways, we got our PST drive shaft in. You guys can see that all fits absolutely perfectly. But you may notice that there is no drive shaft loop. So we've started clearance in the floor where our loop is going to fit, and we're not going to throw away where our other loop, because this thing just may get only the power glide back in it to go, you know, do some racing to try and get the thing back in the 6s, or the car in the 6s. We haven't run 6s yet, but we want to. So I'm going to weld a flange here. I've already got some that we made. Weld a flange here, and then we'll be able to bolt the old drive shaft loop back in, and then we'll make a bar that bends and catches the drive shaft loop. We use 1-inch chromoly tubing. And probably because it's so far back in the car, actually there's a really good spot right there. This spot right here will be a really good spot to put a tab off of, because it's double thick.
Okay.
So if we can access that in the car, maybe we put our tab off of the loop, although the bar's gonna be coming right through there too. We'll figure something out. Yeah, we'll figure something out. But we've got to bolt the transmission cooler onto the front of the radiator. One thing that a lot of people asked, and I have an answer for, they've asked about a shroud for the fan. Yes, we need to do a shroud. Do we have time to do a shroud before sick week? Probably not. We think we're getting the engine tomorrow. We had to make some special arrangements. Well, we didn't make special arrangements, but I'll talk about that when we get the engine. So if that happens tomorrow, we will be putting the engine in. We've got to put our oil pan on it. We've got to put our front cover on it, because you can see our front cover has the drain back for the turbo drain. This is our custom lightweight mock-up block. That's what happens when you spray 500 horsepower on a stock rod and piston 6.0. It actually lived like 20 runs, but the guy that owned that car, he made some big mistakes with that. But anyways, let's go outside and show you what else I took care of this morning. That's kind of a big deal, but yeah, let's go outside. All right, so the last order of business that we took care of today has to do with our trailer. And we used this trailer last year, but we had just bought it right before the event, and we just kind of had planned to claim the 30 days, and we didn't have a chance to get a tag on it. Well, now that it's been a full year later, we have no excuse for not having a tag on the thing. So this morning I made an appointment to get the tag on it. So I go down to the DMV, and you know, just drove down there in my truck. Forgot my wallet to begin with, so Tad had to run my wallet over to me. Luckily it's only about 10 minutes away. But I run over to the DMV, get everything taken care of, paid for, but they won't transfer the title until they get a weight on it. So I had to come back after I also got the registration done for SoccerMom, because we had all that to get worked out. Nothing like last minute race car stuff, but we got the registration worked out for SoccerMom. I had to come back to the shop, grab the trailer, go weigh the trailer at a place that has a certified scale, go back to the DMV, finish the registration and the tag for the trailer here, and we're all good to go. And I did her through 2024, since we're going to be doing, you know, events this year and next year. But what do you think the thing weighed? Empty trailer, and you know, it's pretty much all aluminum construction except for the frame underneath it, the axle, and then the deal there. Plastic toolbox. Leave a guess down in the comments. I'm going to tell you in just a few minutes, or just a few seconds really anyway. But yeah, everything worked really well with hauling it over there. And the little hitch worked out good. I didn't have to stress myself on picking it up and dropping it onto the scale once I hauled it over to the place that had the certified scale. All the lights worked. So trailer passes its test, even though it had been sitting, you know, out the back of the shop since last year. But yeah, we're all good there. And if you already made a guess, I'll tell you now. It was 240 pounds. So kind of cool. Not super heavy trailer. Should be pretty easy to haul. Now we'll probably double that weight by the time we get, we'll have, you know, wheels and tires, generator, all of our tools, fuel in the back, plus some spare parts and gear and all kinds of stuff we're going to jam in this thing, just like last year. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. Hopefully tomorrow we will have an engine to show you, and then hopefully the next day or so we should be on the dyno. I have my kids the next few days, so that's going to complicate progress here, but we've got a good team here at the shop that's going to be working on the car. Kind of had to pull at least one of my guys off of one of their projects to help probably tomorrow. We'll see. I know Will's going to be here all day tomorrow, and hopefully the engine gets here early enough that we can be in. I don't think we'll be running tomorrow. That's a stretch, because there's one other big project that kind of still needs to be done. But that'll do it for this episode. Appreciate everybody watching, subscribing, following along, commenting. You guys have seen me down there in the comments, you know, replying back to you and having a good time. So see you guys next time.